Today we will use a customized mold for TMA Tech Mold to construct a multi-tissue matrix known as a tissue microarray, or TMA. This mold has two cylinders of 4 mm diameter each and is pyramided to be used as a staining control. However, the molds could be personalized with the number, size and cylinder disposition desired by the user to make controls or research studies. In the first step, the silicone mold is introduced into the paraffin dispenser at 60 degrees Celsius for approximately 15 minutes. Likewise, the cassette with the TMA identification is introduced so that it can also be tempered at 60 degrees centigrade. Once the 15 minutes have passed, the silicone mold and the cassette immersed in paraffin have been tempered and removed from the dispenser. The second step is to fill the silicone mold with paraffin at 60 degrees, then place the cassette to identify the TMA on the silicone mold. Then the top of the cassette is filled with paraffin and the silicone mold with the cassette is moved to a cold plate at approximately -5 degrees for 20 to 30 minutes until the paraffin solidifies. After 20 to 30 minutes, when the paraffin has cooled, the silicone mold is removed from the solidified paraffin. The TMA paraffin block is obtained with the empty cylinders into which the tissue will be introduced later. Afterwards, the areas of interest are located in the donor cassette, both on the hematoxylin eosin stain slide and on the paraffin blocks of the donor biopsies. On the slide stained, we find selected areas of interest previously identified by the pathologist, and these will be the areas that will be punctured to extract the tissue with the help of a biopsy punch. Therefore, the slide is placed on top of the block to see the areas. The biopsy punch is inserted over the donor paraffin block, and a cylinder of tissue, also known as a punch, is extracted and remains inside the biopsy punch. The tissue cylinder or punch is then pushed out of the biopsy punch with a stylet and deposited into the empty cylinder of the TMA paraffin block. If necessary, the punch is adjusted with the help of the finger to finish inserting the tissue punch into the paraffin block. With the tissue cylinder from the next case, the same procedure is performed as before. In other words, from the donor block and the hematoxylin eosin slide, the area of interest is selected where the biopsy punch will be inserted to extract the tissue, and the punch is obtained. With the help of the stylet, it is extracted from the biopsy punch and inserted into the corresponding space in the TMA. Once the punches of the donor's cases have been introduced into the TMA, and before placing it in the heater, the TMA block is introduced into the hot part of the paraffin dispenser at 60 degrees, without submerging it. For 3 seconds, it is moved slightly to integrate the paraffin and unify the punch. Subsequently, the TMA is deposited on a slide or metal base, face down in the heater at 40 degrees centigrade. The heater is closed and left overnight. The next day, the TMA is removed and deposited on a plate at -5 degrees centigrade to cool and cut the block. The block is placed in the microtome to rough it at approximately 10 microns. And when it is seen that tissue comes out, it is changed to 2 to 4 microns so that the cut comes out correctly. Once the cut is obtained, it is placed in the bath to be able to fish it with the slide and is left to dry at room temperature. Finally, the tissue obtained on the slide can be used for any histological staining, and the cells that form the tissue can be observed.